how are we feeling? Just a couple of words. Okay, so we've got buzzed, motivated, lots going on. I'm Chase. Bim and I have just come off a strategic meeting with Glen Innes. They're the ones that we'll be doing with you as well. I'll talk to New Zealand about those in a little bit, but I'll be talking to, we're going to do some with the Queensland group that are with us today as well soon. So just moving on, the Impact Network, I just want to update you on the Mid-Coast New South Wales. Mid-Coast New South Wales didn't receive its Welcome Experience funding, and so they have done a strategic refocus, and they don't have the resources on their committee to attend these, but they're still part of the network, and Kate's still being supported. Whilst they'll receive these, they're not going to be attending. So that's probably the only development. Does anyone else have any news? We are going to get New Zealand to introduce themselves, but does anyone else have anything they want to share with us? Just put a hand up if you do. All I have to say is it's bloody freezing in Bellingen today. And last week I thought I was going to have to turn the air conditioner on, and I had the heater on, so I had a t-shirt on. So I probably shouldn't say that to the New Zealanders. So we might move straight on to getting in New Zealand to introduce themselves. So I'm going to mute, and Barbara and Lynn, if you could introduce yourselves and just give us a bit of an outline of how you've come to be sitting in this.
Ako te katoa ko ingarangi te whakapaparanga mai, engari ko pakipaki me Oranga me Heritanga, te whenua tupu ko Barbara Gladding Takawingoa, tēnā koutou katoa. That was a traditional mihi. It said that my background is English, that's my genealogy, but I've lived in places called Pakipaki, Porangahau and Heritanga, and that's where I grew up. My name is Barbara Gladding, and I greet you all. So that's an approach that we take at the beginning of meetings like this. Thanks very much, Kath, for the welcome. I'll probably hand over to Lynn, and she can introduce herself as she pleases, and we can talk to you about how we got the trust started, if you want to do that now, or if you want to leave it till later, Kath.
Yep. Let's do it all now. Yeah.
Okay. Lynn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Very quickly. Kia ora tātou, I'm Lynn Patterson, and actually not dissimilar, though we live in the provincial area of Wairarapa, which is an hour and a half from our capital city, Wellington. Not unlike Barbara, I back to Hiratonga in the Hawke's Bay as well. So great to be here. I'm quite motivated to hear from others' experiences and to just get things moving. I'm a little bit impatient, aren't I, Barbara? But I'll hand back to Barbara now to give you the background to how we arrived to where we are today. But kia ora again, and lovely to be here. Great.
And Barbara, we've got 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll whip through quickly. So essentially we started in response to an economic development, say kaupapa purpose, so that our starting point was one of 7 sector groups. Healthcare was one of seven sector groups. Our focus was on breaking down some silos and some hierarchies and starting to get a community conversation going. So our trust is called Tūhau Oranga Trust, and it means being committed to and uplifting the vitality of people by supporting their ongoing health and being. It sounds rather large handle, but it's from Māori, so it's translated into English as opposed to the other way around. The reason for our interest in establishing a community connected program was it was quite imperative to increase the health workforce, and we were given unicorn data. So we were told to go from this to this by 2030, but we had no reason to understand any of that data. It was given to us by economists, and when unpeeling the onion to try and work out what was this all about, I discovered through somebody else's Twitter feed a track Connect Stay from Kath's broadcasting into the ether. So we were interested to know a little bit more about the how. So how are we going to increase these numbers, and were these numbers even relevant? So at the same time, there was a public meeting in one of the towns that blamed our local health funder for the global workforce crisis in health. So we felt we had to step in and do something. The governance that we use is a charitable trust board, and we have places for 11 trustees. We have representatives of the local iwi, that's people of the land, people, Indigenous people here, and we have participation by Pacifica, who are an important group in Wairarapa. So they're all the trustees are community leaders or health leaders, and they're all connected to parts of the health system. Our key milestones, we've established the trust. We're very pleased and honoured to welcome Kath to a full whiti here. A welcome and acknowledge that she has a right to stand here with us on the land. And we had interest from central government. So we've had 3 local MPs. One is in government and who's interested in what we're doing. And we've got interest from different parts of the community as well, different parts of the health sector. We're engaging with Dr. Anna Moran from Kath's team, and she's going to be helping us look at what are the metrics, what's the strategic view that we need to take so we can get some real numbers, a starting point and a finishing point, and use the connector, the community connector role to help us manage that process through recurring relationships that will see an increase in the workforce and to provide better relationships between workplaces and new people in jobs. Does that answer the question, Kate?
That's perfect. We'll have many more opportunities to talk to you and for you to talk to others. But now, because we're having a masterclass and we're doing all things marketing, I want to introduce the fabulous Peter Thompson to you. So Peter works on all things that look great on my website. Thank Peter for that. So Peter works very closely with me, but I also think she has much that she can teach all of us, that marketing and branding is key to everything we do, whether we like it or not. And so I'm going to hand over to Peter, and I've asked her to talk about some of the things. This is a 2-part masterclass. So we don't cover today, we'll continue on next month. And so off we go. Peter, over to you.
Thank you. Can I share?
Peter, you need to be more volume.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's all right.
Let me just see how I can turn that up. I got it up as high. How's that? Is that better? Can you hear me any better? No? Okay. Well, I should have tested that before we started. Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, it's all right. Go, Peter. Just speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will, so thank you very much, Kath. Hello, everybody. Kia ora. I'm coming to you from Tūhau and Yagara country in Queensland. And Kath and I have been working together for some time, and what we talked about presenting to you is really about foundational work, which you may or may not know already. If you don't know it, great. I hope I can help. And if you do know it, then just ignore it. You're already doing it. The point of this is just to look at foundational efforts that you need to apply across your system so that all of those things are taken care of before you start layering on any big strategic marketing activities. And so I'm going to work through the basics. So the Google Business Panel is one of the foundational things that you need to have in order so that Google pays attention to you. And it's about having the visibility. It's like the first point of an SEO strategy. And I'm not going to go too deeply into SEO because that's the dark arts as far as I'm concerned. But it's an important thing to have. So what I might do is stop sharing this and show you, in case you don't know what your Google panel is. Who does know? Who's got their Google panel sorted? No. Okay. Let me just, I don't know how to flip sharing, but I'll just stop sharing that one and start sharing another. It's a tool that helps people find you, obviously. So if you can see this screen now? So this is what it looks like to be an owner. Actually, that's not the one I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you the other one, which is the public view. Let me just get that. Sorry, I'll flip around. Sorry, just give me a second. I think that might be it. Let's see. Is that the one? Yes. So this is what happens if someone does a search for Attract to Connect Day. They'll see Kath is well positioned because it's her name, so that will appear. But the Google, it's like the Google Knowledge Panel, Google Business Panel, and this is the one on the right-hand side. That is where your reviews appear. So if you're getting Google reviews, which is something you should try to do, because that also gives you priority once your Google reviews are performing. It allows you to list, put your phone number and your web link, your position where you're servicing. You can list products in here, and these are set so that if you click on them, it gives you some information. It also puts a click, can put a link through to your website, and you can define categories for your business. You can put in Q&As. In fact, Q&As that people ask you, but you can actually populate it with your own Q&As. So these are Q&As that Kath has on her website that I've repeated here. What these are really valuable key terms that aid in being discovered. Anything that you can load up with descriptive text that's part of your SEO strategy. So they're all keywords that relate to your business. But you can ask and answer your own questions there. You get more space for a description. There's also a panel here for putting products. So if Kath was going to an event, she could post up the event and encourage people to attend, but it's also another opportunity to load in keywords. And you can put all of your social profiles on here. So that's what the Google Business Panel is. So it's important to claim it and populate it and then keep maintaining it. So it like most social platforms, needs to be constantly fed. I'll just stop sharing that and go back to my res. There we go. So that's the Google Business Panel. And then there's Meta for Facebook and Instagram. You might already have Meta. Would that be right? Some of you would have Facebook or Instagram. Yeah. If you don't know, Meta is the sort of business platform that allows you to post to both Facebook and Instagram, which is great. And you can also see all of your analytics in one place. If you're only using one or the other, it's fine. It's just that it's easier to post through one platform to both of them. And the thing about them is that they're slightly different. You need to take that approach with your posting. Whilst you can do it centrally, the Facebook, for instance, you can do text-only posts. Instagram always has to have an image. Instagram has less text capacity. Both of them correspond to hashtags, although there's a bit of a universal change about how useful hashtags are going to be in the future, and that's because platforms are prioritizing the ad spend, and so they're not focusing on hashtags as being a great tool. But I still think that a hashtag strategy is important. And so with Facebook and Instagram, I might just flip over and show you again. I'll just show you Kath's so you can have a look at it. About this flipping around, but it's helps. Is everyone comfortable with using their Facebook and Instagram? Has anyone got any burning issues with their systems at the moment? Okay, so if you haven't seen the Meta platform before, this is what it looks like. It shows you that you've got your Facebook and your Instagram, your followers, and gives you some good analytics once you've reached a certain amount of followers. The thing that I find most useful is this panel, which shows you all of your analytics to see what your reach is. And one of the things that I encourage, and I think we've seen some good reach through, but I don't know that it's very difficult to monitor whether it's converting, is to, as a Facebook page, join a community group, which in your areas, if you're able to connect with communities, you can then communicate your offer to them. And community groups sometimes let a page join. Often they don't. So you just have to try. You have to do the research, find your pages, and then join them. And if they don't let you join, then you'll only be able to join as an individual, which then makes it problematic to monitor. So if I give you this example here, you'll see in this analytics, I don't know how clearly you can see this, but these are just individual posts. Whereas when it's got this little head group here, you can see that this is a Facebook group that we've joined, and this one is the Rural Remote Nurses of Australia and New Zealand. And so when we post to these, we do see that we get quite good engagement. So that's a tactic to use when you're trying to engage with your local community as your business page. And then you can get some insight. So this is a good one, the Rural Remote Nurses Association. We get 1.2, that's your reach. And so you're just getting you're getting eyeballs, and therefore you can, if you have some posting with consistency, or you're running campaigns, if you're using good branding that resonates, then people will remember. There's no sort of, unless you've got something incredibly viral, you're going to have to be consistent and ongoing to get some cut through, but it depends on what your objectives are. So that's just a little technique that we're applying now. And like I said, it's difficult to measure conversion, but for some of it, it's about getting the exposure out there. And like you said, Barbara, that you saw something about CAF on the Twitterverse. So it's about letting as many people as possible know about the product. The other part of this is Linktree. I don't know if any of you have heard of Linktree. Linktree is another free tool that allows you to consolidate links into the one sort of portal. Let me just see if I can show you on. Sorry, I'll go back to home and get to Instagram. As many free tools. I'm all about maximizing the free tools where you can. So Linktree is something that was predominantly built for Instagram, but it can be used elsewhere. And what it does is allow you to put a whole bunch of links into the one thing, whereas Instagram only allows you to put 2 links, maybe your website and something else, whereas now we can put all of these things. You can book a call, you can watch a video, you can join a program, and also you've got all your other links down here as well. So it's just another tool to look at. If you're going to spend some time building all of your channels, that's a good one to add to. Let me just stop sharing that and go back to my PowerPoint. Anyone got any questions so far? No? Good. So LinkedIn.
Peter, I'm just adding how I use them in the chat if people want to see why I think there's a difference, and to pay particular attention to LinkedIn, which you're about to talk about.
Yeah. So LinkedIn, because everyone has a different, if you understand your ideal customer and where they're living, I would think a lot of them would be living on LinkedIn. So it's an impossible one to ignore. So building your professional page is important, but building a business page is equally important. And I'll step you through that, and I'll show you on CAS again. I'll give you that example. LinkedIn just has so many great tools, but it also has a lot of hidden things that people don't realize, and it also changes frequently. So it's quite tricky to keep up with it, to be honest. And I find sometimes I'll turn up and then they'll have changed something, and I'm like, great, thanks for letting me know. They don't, because you're just one in the many. It used to be that you needed to turn on creator mode in order to enable a whole bunch of features. So it's important to make sure that you populate and use all of the things that you can, knowing that some of them are limited to the number of followers or connections you have. So you've got to work around them, and you'll say, why can't I do this? And it's probably because you don't have enough followers. That's usually applicable to a business page. But so it's important to have a banner image that shows somewhat representative, or in this case, this is something that Kath has got across her other channels. So it's a totemic thing that you see the familiarity, but it also does represent our ideal customer. A great headshot. This used to have a thing that on mobile you could do a little 30-second introduction. I think that's gone. Getting verified is good. I don't know that it's critical. It's just something that I think if you can do it early, do it, because later on it might be something like the tick on Twitter, Twitter X, that you have to pay for later. So often those things you can only take advantage of them first. You don't get punished later. Having really great encompassing text here is important. Adding your links, your contact info. We put this workforce transformation, but it's basically a link to the website. And you may see sometimes this being blank, or I don't know if you've got one of those still, Catherine. Yes, so if it shows like this unpopulated square, and that's because there is no page built for this organization. And I think we might have gone back to look, and they might not exist. Therefore, it looks like this. If you want to have your brand on there, you actually need to build a business page, and it's clickable. Honestly, it's a weird situation too. It's only clickable through clicking on this link here to get to the page, but that's why it's populated, is because it's got the brand on there. So building a business page is super important, because it's 2 ways of people finding you as well, but you can communicate differently on the business page to your personal page, because you might have lots of different things you want to say in your personal page, and business is about business. One of the things that we've done is created a newsletter, so the posts, you selectively choose which posts of CAF or your own to post on your business page, and which posts from your business page you want to then repopulate on your personal page. And there's just a sneaky little technique on how to do that, which I won't go into detail, but it's something that if you have a play around and you can't figure it out, we can cover. So maybe in between this session and the next session, have a play around with things, and if you come up with a list of questions, send them through earlier so that we can prepare and answer them for you. But what's great about newsletters is that they actually can reach outside of your current connection base. But just also, it's important to understand the difference between connections and followers. Connections are a deep connection that you're really involved. A follower is just an outsider. But on your personal page, you can have connections and followers. But on your business page, you can really only have followers. So followers can come to your business page through the organic results, or maybe through advertising if you do it. But they mostly come from you inviting your connections to follow the business page, which is what Kath's done a lot of to get her followers up on her business page. But what happens with these subscribers is that they can sometimes come from completely outside. So you'll see in here there's a lot of it. This is a third who's not in Kath's network at all, and a second. So you're actually reaching people outside of your network, which is a really good way to communicate with more people. Again, you can go and then connect with them so that you're building your connections. So there's a lot of manual stuff with LinkedIn and a lot of labyrinthine things you can get involved in. So I'm just giving you the sort of headline. I'm sorry if it sounds a little all over the place, but it all fits together eventually. Yeah, so these are the subscribers to this newsletter who are outside of the Attract, Connect, Stay followers, who are probably another subset or outside of Kath's followers and connections. Gives you an opportunity here to talk about bigger, longer form topics. It's a lovely Tim. And you can put links in here and not get as punished. I'll talk about rewards and punishments later, but not get as punished as if you were using them in posts. There's a strategy about long form content, in that if you create long form blog content for your web page, it's great, but executing that same long form content on LinkedIn is going to get you better mileage, and that's because of domain authority. And I'll talk about domain authority later, which I don't know if you heard of that term, but it's a really valuable one to be aware of, because you could be creating amazing content, loading up regularly on your web page, but it's just not going to get seen as much as if you post it onto big sites like LinkedIn. So it's going back. Again, this is Kath's personal page. She's got some good analytics that she can see in here for posts and see what action's happening, what's resonating. You can set up longer spans to show what your audience is looking at and what's appealing to them. And often, as Kath's found, when you bring a little your personal life into posts, it does resonate quite strongly. Certainly, you get good effect from images, adding in ats and hashtags, reach outside of your network. So that's good. When you add an at, which is just adding the at symbol and Regional Australia Institute, and finding the right, there might only be one, but sometimes there's a few things called the same thing, you then appear on their feed and they can then react to it. So you generally get more reactions when you include others and tag workmates or other providers or connections. That really helps. The same thing happens on your business page, in that you can see some really interesting analytics for your activity. This is showing reactions. You can see really interesting stats on your visitors, like who they are, which is really important. These have got job function, it's got company size, industry, location, seniority. You can go down a complete rabbit hole. The thing about these is when you export them, they're actually not very useful. So you're often better to every now and again have a look in here and just pick the things that are relevant to you. There's a lot of tools around big agencies, and HubSpot, they've got a lot of tools that can consolidate these. They're very expensive. So it depends on whether you can get funding to do that or whether you're happy to have a look at key things. So it's even looking at the difference between desktop and mobile and seeing how people are interacting with your content to see whether you're actually serving that very well. And that's probably more related to, say, your website, if your website is responsive and is presented well on a mobile device. So we're seeing quite an even split here, which is probably going to change over time, and people are probably going to be using mobile more. That's definitely what's been happening in the last 5 to 10 years. People are using mobile more to access websites. And so you need to, and social, so you need to be able to produce your material that accommodates that. What else is to say about this? In terms of creating a web page, a LinkedIn business page, if you don't have one, you can start up here. It's this little cube of dots, and that's create a company page. So you click there, and probably the best way to start if you haven't got one is to look at one that even if you go to Kath and have a look at what has she done, let's just do those things. And that helps you it's intuitive in a way that steps you through how to create a business page, a company page. But if you just get started, you can then go back and edit it, and it's quite straightforward, because if you create it, you are then the owner, and it will appear down here and it'll populate here. There's a lot of tricks with the sizing of things. How, for instance, this banner, you can't use the same banner, interestingly, on your business page because it's smaller. So if you've used the member, it's a smaller banner. So I see how to cut them off. I mean, you can use it, obviously, but you can use something different, but you have to assume that it's going to be present a little differently. Yeah, there's a lot of tricky little things with it, but I'd encourage you to get started. Do searches if you come across problems, but if you did get started before our next session, then you could show us and we could workshop a couple of things and identify issues. If you haven't seen them, we can identify, maybe help you through it. Let's go back to my presentation. Any questions so far from anybody? No? So LinkedIn, and we go to YouTube. Again, YouTube, I'll talk further about domain authority. YouTube, you may think it's a lot of effort to create YouTube videos. It's a complex thing, but the reason that you would do it is because of its domain authority, and it is the second most popular search engine behind Google, and it's worth it. And what I think we need to think about is that we're not going to be content creators, so we're not looking for subscribers, and we're not really, you can create some really high caliber assets, but more than anything, it's about having volume that speaks to your audience. But what the most important thing is that if you are creating content, that you put some thought into curating it and making sure that it does have good description text, because that's how it is giving the results in terms of search results. So again, I'll flip over to Cass just as an example so you can see what she's been doing. Okay, again, it's about branding. There's a whole lot of opportunity here to put your links in, making sure this is all populated and looking good. There's this text here. It's not showing that text there, but each of these categories and videos, it's important to put text in these categories. It gives you some context, and these ones particularly, they're not even Kath's videos. Oh, actually, these ones we've loaded them up, but you can actually share other people's content and call it inspiration or helpful guides, or I think there's a lot of services around that might be relevant to people coming into areas, and so then you can put it under when moving to our area, you just name the playlist, which all of this text and all of the text about the description text of these videos, I'm just going to, helps you attract traffic. So it's just being mindful of that when you're creating content. I think you don't have any, Kath, but there's some of my clients that I work with, they've got a lot of volunteering areas, so they have a lot of their volunteer videos. We can put podcasts on here. If you are in a podcast or you want to run a podcast, you can add it as a playlist on your YouTube video, YouTube channel. Yeah, it's just another opportunity to attract traffic, noting that your goal here is not to build subscribers, but to turn up in results and convey messages. The other thing is usually with website designers that they prefer to have any videos that appear on the website housed somewhere else. It could be Vimeo, but if it's YouTube, then it's housed on your YouTube channel and then appears on your website. So I'm just going to flip over to the other version. That's my inside working version. Just sort of flip over to this one, because then you'll see Kath's other. This is the channel that the public see. She's got it auto plays a welcome video, which is this is one of the things that she did spend a bit of money on. It's a beautifully shot and edited video. A lot of it's stock footage, but it's interspersed with real footage. And so that auto plays when somebody comes to the website. But that's also the video that's on her homepage. So when someone comes to the YouTube channel, it's also plays on her website and can be exploited as a post as well across other platforms. That's just a setting when you're loading your content up that you can set it to be an autoplay. You can even have an autoplay that's a different one for new visitors to returning visitors or subscribers. That's not so important because we're not driving for building subscribers. So we have the same video playing whether you're a new visitor or a subscriber, but there's a lot of flexibility there. Yeah, you don't have to take advantage of all of it. But, so that's, let me just go back to sharing this one. Anyone got any questions now? Okay, that's good. So I was just going to spend a little bit of time talking about domain authority, which I've touched on. The big players, so Google has most domain authority, and domain authority refers to its capacity to reach people. The big players are Google, YouTube, and LinkedIn is definitely a big player. Facebook, all of them are big players, depending how you want to reach your audience. But like I said to you, that if you're creating amazing content and posting it up to as a blog to your website, which is very important because you should be creating content, and the content needs to have strategy around it, and that you understand your keywords, and those keywords are in your first 100 words, and it won't matter how good it is if it's only sitting on your web page, because your authority is only the capacity of the search results that you're able to achieve, which even if you're doing all the right things, it's never going to be as good as Google or YouTube or LinkedIn. So that's why a really good content strategy is to aim to create long form blog content that's got all the really important messages in it, and then re-exploit it across these other channels so that you're reaching outside of your tiny little authority bubble. As annoying as that sounds, because it does take a bit of effort, and they do need to be slightly changed for the audience on different platforms. For instance, I'm just working with a client who created a really nice blog for their website, but I changed and all I did is I used ChatGPT to change the introduction. So the main blog was right, but just the introduction made it more relevant to a person looking at it on LinkedIn. It takes a little bit of effort, but there's some really handy little tools out there that can help you do that, shortcut it. You are obviously in charge. You feed it, do it using ChatGPT. Who's using ChatGPT? Anybody? Yeah, Kat. Go, Gail. Give it a go. And this is the sort of exercise that would be really helpful. You give it a description. You can feed in the full content and say, please write me 2 paragraphs to contextualize this for a LinkedIn article. And you read it. If you don't like it, you edit it. It never comes up perfectly, but it does help you to just think, oh, okay, I get what I need to do, and then you can fix it, and then you use that to take it over to LinkedIn, for instance. Okay, so that's domain authority. I did talk about YouTube. Oh, website. And I don't know, most of you probably have a website. Would you all have websites? No? So a website, again,
Can you show their hands who's got a website and who hasn't?
Who has?
Just Gail.
Who has? Just Gail. Okay. Yeah, I think there's economical ways of building websites that could be just a couple of pages. There's no need to spend a lot, but there's a lot of providers out there that can build straightforward web pages that have got your key elements on there, and then the opportunity to create blogs. You really could have like 2 or 3 page website. We know people who can do it. So if there's something if it's a funding thing, that would be one of the things I'd say you could put in your bundle for funding. And Kath's is different because it's got a lot of coaching on it. But probably one of the things is to look around and go, what is a website that you are familiar with, and what do you admire about it? And then go about creating something like that. And that's the problem with a lot of these channels. It will want you to point to a website. It needs to have a website too. It doesn't need it. You can still go ahead with it, but they probably do need some form of website to adds legitimacy. It makes the whole package seem more real. Maybe if that's a blocker, because I'd say, you could start with having LinkedIn, but then if you want them to take action, it's better that they can take action on a website. There's only so much that you can do with the free channels that are available. So maybe that's something we can workshop at another stage if you want. What I was going to say is about websites, it's important all of the links need to be on there, but you do need to maintain them and look at them and check that they're all working, because that's something that people often miss and forget and overlook, and then you're driving traffic to the wrong positions. I think that's an important one to consider. Okay, let me get back up there. Search engine optimization. As I said, I'm not a specialist in the dark arts of SEO. I like to work with some established SEO. But there are some foundations, and the things that I've been talking about are part of the foundations for setting yourself up for success in terms of search engine optimization. The other part of search engine optimization is making sure that when a website is built, that it's following all of the protocols in terms of headers and tags and alt tags, and that means adding text to images, which actually most of the social platforms ask you to do now. So that's something that Google wants, but it's a respectful and good thing to do for people who are who are vision impaired and are using screen readers, because then they get to see everything. Yeah, so there's tools for, let me just see my notes, for monitoring with search engine optimization, in that where's my little notes on that? When there's Google Analytics that you can add to a website that gives you a lot of insight. Again, it's one of those things where you can get insights from all your different channels. How you consolidate them and make sense of them is challenging, but I think if you can see that there's a response to when you're doing things, and that there's if you've got a consistent approach that you can see ongoing and growth, then that's all you can hope for, really. Yeah, there's a bunch of things that you can do on websites where you can create backlinks and crosslinks, which are creating internal links and external links that help you drive traffic. So that's a thing that we're going to be doing with Kath. When we've got sites, we're going to be building a page where if you've all got websites or socials or whatever, we'll be creating a page that champions all of the people in the network, all of the organizations in the network. So you'll get a backlink from us, we'll get a backlink from you, and so we're instantly creating some value on both sides. So that's something that's on our roadmap for doing. Yeah, I was just going to say about tools and metrics. Those are things that can be built in when a website's being developed. Yeah, that's looking after links. So that's making sure that links across your channels are pointing in the right direction. So it's just maybe every quarter make a point of going through and sweeping and checking links on all of your different platforms, just to make sure that they're still robust. Yeah, understanding rewards and punishments is a really interesting one. And it's something that's happening increasingly on social channels, where if you are pointing people away from the platform in any way, they will downgrade you. So that if you're putting a link in a post, in the text of a post, that will be deemed as something that's driving traffic away. So if you say, join this, or go here to sign up, or whatever, it's better to put those things in the comments, it's a little bit of a pain in the neck, but it does mean that your content is not going to get downgraded in terms of the algorithm and the feed that goes to your audience. There's just something to be mindful of. I don't know, you might have seen that more and more recently. You'll see, something in comments. Why are they doing that? In Facebook, whatever, Instagram. I don't think it's as difficult at Instagram, because they don't actually let you put links in the text anyway. It does, and you can't put a link in the comments. So that's why Linktree is so good for Instagram, because if you did want to drive people to things, you can add that Linktree tool to the Instagram in one of the URLs, and you can put all of your links in there. So you could say in a post, check Linktree for the link. But in Facebook and in LinkedIn, you will be punished if you put a link in the actual text, because it will be a hyperlink and you're driving traffic away from their site. So I recommend doing it in the comments, or, like I said, using a newsletter or an article, because you're not tending to get punished there, because that's something they offer. The other thing that you'll get rewarded for is diversity of content. If you're putting up images and text, or just text, or video, or slideshows, for instance, LinkedIn has a carousel feature, which means creating content as PDF. So if you're creating tiles, you create them as a PDF and you upload it, and it rolls through like a slideshow. But it also means that someone can download it and use it elsewhere. Again, I'd say be careful about how you create those things, because you think, it's a PDF, I want to cram in a lot of stuff, but on a little, and you've got to imagine someone's using a mobile device. If it's only this tiny little thing, you can't read it, so it's pointless. So you've got to try to find the balance between giving good, strong content, something that they may want to download. I don't know how many people do it, but just it's the interactivity. So LinkedIn, all of them will reward you for diversity of content. So if you're creating a content planner, aim to have a diversity of content in there, which means saying, okay, I'm going to create video every now and again. Great, because you've got YouTube, you can load it up to your YouTube channel. So that's where the punishment and rewards come in. Let's see. And that's it. This is part one. Part two is going to be about creating a content planner and talking about different types of content, which I'll come back in a month. And if you wanted to have a think, have a play, work some things out, start with whatever's most available to you. And I'd say social platforms, I'd say prioritize LinkedIn if you can and get that going. You'll see that it wants a website, but just ignore it if you don't have a website. Just get it started so that it's there, and you'll see that you'll hit some roadblocks. And let's keep a list of them, and then maybe share them before the next session, and we can workshop some of those that may be consistent. I don't know, Kath, how you want to do that. Probably advise consolidate it into something. We might get a spreadsheet. We can just see who's encountering what problem, and then we can work it through at the next session.
Yeah. Let's just have a general conversation now. We've gone for a deep dive there, and probably I want to just take us right up. Why are we doing this? Look, if I'd known how much marketing I'd need to make Attract, Connect, Stay successful, I probably would have done a marketing degree rather than a PhD. Maybe I needed both. You will need to do all of these things, and depending on your governance structure, if you're a committee structure, you'll need to have someone on your committee who's dedicated to communication and working these things out. Sometimes it's worth spending some extra dollars and getting some support so you can get a move on. You need to tell the story. And we have a complex client in Community Connector program. We have the employers who want your business. We have the individual newcomer workers, and we have the communities that we are operating in and who are often funding us, or business or organizations. We need to tell a different story. And as I said, I've been putting in chat, if you can have a look, some of the things. LinkedIn is particularly good for employers and newcomer skilled workers that we're trying to attract and gain knowledge about the program. But when you're talking to your community, Facebook and Instagram are more appropriate vehicles. I'm just conscious that New Zealand is not up to this stage, although I know, Gail, you're there, and Bem, you've been across this for some time. So let's have a bit of a chat. Does it sound absolutely overwhelming, or you understand where we're coming from and why? And I find Peter very valuable because these things are not easily found out there, and you really do need a good roadmap. Turn off your unmute and let's have a quick chat before we finish with it.
Can I just say hi, everyone, for a start? I missed the start of the meeting, so sorry. When I think about Shepparton just quickly and how our roadmap looked, it was a little bit ad hoc at the start. I wish that we had a plan from the very start about how that looked. We always had website as our first point of call, but we slowly started adding these bits and pieces. And I think to have that plan at the very start would be so valuable and time saving. We were being a little bit reactive rather than proactive with our marketing. So that's something I definitely, if we had that time again.
And you could have a really simple website. It could just really be a landing page, couldn't it, Peter, of just here, contact us here. With a nice image and some branding, and that would be. And the other workplace, I'd say early on, it's good to spend some money on some branding and taglines and your name and all of those things, because once we get going, it's hard to change them. So Glen Innes is currently under a rebranding piece of work, and it's a lot of work for them. And it's
some governance around that, Kath, as well, about how they're to be used in early on. I think is really important too.
Yeah, so we've got Attract, Connect, Stay is trademarked, and we are developing branding guidelines around that we will give you that we need you to work within. But we really encourage you to create things that are specific to your community and what your vision is. So that can be different. Sometimes it can be healthcare, but sometimes it's broader than that. It's skilled workers. So you want to think about all those things first, and I would really encourage you to either spend the dollars you're raising or get a grant to do some of that work sooner rather than later. And then all of this stuff gets a little bit easier. But it's literally, I find it like it's my weekly homework. Peter's given me things to do, and I just do my work.
I'd like to know from Gail and what changes did you notice once you started to get a little bit more sophisticated with your online presence, and what effect did that have on the way you thought about what your task was, or what your job was to do? And I do apologise for the disappearance of the sun. It's gone. So I'm hoping that we live to see a brighter day tomorrow.
Do you want me to go first, Gail? Yeah, no
Go
worries.
for it.
Yeah, I think initially the website was our traction and our go-to for everyone, employers, new to area professionals. That was linked in with, we sat under the umbrella of the council's website around the attraction was already being fed to our page. And I think as we started adding resources and then we created Facebook pages, we really started to see the momentum of the employers starting to engage, or actually more just inquiring about what the Interact Connects Day was. And it started to show us that we needed to then start educating the business around the whole of person recruitment. And from there, we went on to create some of those resources to tap into the needs of those businesses. We didn't have a LinkedIn page. It was only, and I would have loved a LinkedIn page, but it was only because we were sitting under the restrictions of council. And we had some challenging areas there we had to face just because of we were council branded initially. I see them more freely now. Now they're outside of that council and they're more of their own entity. They certainly have a lot more freedom with the way they market. But we used our Facebook page on two levels, one on the business level around the Community Connector program, and then we had our clients or our referrals that had a social connection Facebook page as well. And yeah, each post, your posts are really important. Your taglines and your content was really, extremely important. And I think when you started using those real life stories in a client and our marketing, that's where we really saw the elevation of our hits as well, just case studies, and people like to hear about some of the successes. So that's just a quick overview of Shepparton.
Thank you. That sounds great.
All right, we're nearly done. Any more questions? If you could give us feedback of anything you'd particularly like Peter to discuss next time, or content. I'm going to let everyone, and I will ask the other sites, I'll send an email on this. Let's try and get a business page up. Set up your own personal if that's not there on LinkedIn, and then create a business page. And then we can work, you can bring direct questions around what that looks like and any challenges you're having. I think that's minimum. You need to have that and direct the traffic away from yourself. People are not going to, for this program, they're not going to look for you. They're going to look for the program. And part of that is deciding what the name is what you're going to call it. And there's one of the things Glen Ennis is going from, there's a difference between the entity that runs these programs and the program. They will be looking for Community Connector program or something like that.
Sorry, the other thing, you can have a couple of people as administrators for a business page. So you can do that setting, on which I can show you, or you can try to find it out. When you create a business page, you can have several contributors and employees if that's a thing for you. Yeah, then it is less about you, about the organization, but you're still a profile and a contributor to that.
Yeah. So my word of advice is don't start trying to do everything. And LinkedIn's a great place to start, and then slowly build, and then maybe a one-page website so you're directing the traffic and people who want to talk to you are talking to you. And then the more of you that get that up, we can get a page up on the Attract Connect Stay website, which would, as Peter said, direct people back to you. So if they're looking for you that way, they'll find you. And I was saying in the chat, have a look what Gail and I have been doing around loving each other's work on LinkedIn. That's a real example of what we want to do for you, but we need your presence and we need you to be posting for us to really promote her program. And she's sending the love right back. So it's a win for both of us, but it just means you're getting to the audience that you want. And in terms of, is this program something that people feel is evidence-based and proven? this is what will do it. More of us posting, and we've got a template we're about to give for impact as well. So those sites that are well developed, you'll see that Glenina's did a fantastic template on impact recently that they've promoted. Yeah, an infographic, and we're going to create that for all of you to use and put your data into that from your CRM. So for both your sites, because just so you know, New Zealand, Gail's Bundaberg sites also in development, not fully operational. So you're probably closer aligned than most other sites who are more operational. Okie doke, we're 2 minutes over. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll post this up into the Facebook group. So there was a lot there. And can we have the slide deck as well too, Peter, up in the... Great. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon. I hope it's warm and sunny in your